All right, looks like we're live. Hey, it's B. You know, there's a fine line between spiritual bypassing and swimming in your own shit. And we're going to talk about riding that line today, really walking on that slack line, keeping that balance between two extremes, because neither spiritual bypassing nor swimming in your own shit is productive. Neither one is going to give you the life that you're actually looking for. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what spiritual bypassing is. Spiritual bypassing is what happens when you try to jump over, you try to downplay, you try to minimize what's happening. Okay, spiritual bypassing is a very big deal. It's distorted. It is a lie of omission with yourself. If you are jumping over what is happening in your life or what is coming up within your being, if you are avoiding what needs to be dealt with, you are spiritual bypassing. If you are trying to love and light everything away, you are spiritual bypassing. If you are trying to allow or accept or, well, just let them be who they're being, you are spiritual bypassing. Now, this is a big deal because bypass, what does it mean? That means to skip over, to jump over. Now, there are some times when you can like literally jump timelines and jump into a new reality. Spiritual bypass that. Spiritual bypassing is pretending that you're doing that while actually being like, no, 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 no. I don't want to look. I don't want to hear. I'm just ignore it and pretend like and hope for the best. Y'all, that's some shit. How do you do your spiritual bypassing? Well, do you keep having the same thing happen over and over and over and over and over? And you're like, well, I just hope one day it'll get better. But you're not actually doing anything to facilitate that shift. That's a form of spiritual bypassing. Are you unwilling to actually do the uncomfortable thing and to go look at your stuff? Are you having like emotions bubble up within you that actually need to be released? But because they don't feel pleasant and because they aren't love and light, are you trying to shove them back down? Are you trying to deny them, repress them? That is spiritual bypassing at its finest. Also a really good way to cause a lot of dis-ease within your body and your energetic system. Okay? Cool. Love it. I see Facebook user. I don't know who you are right now because it says Facebook user. That doesn't come into my world. Yeah, I dive right in. Good. One of my favorite animals in the animal kingdom. I love talking about animals because they illustrate things for us. Nature illustrates things for us that we cannot necessarily see, but it puts it in a frame of mind that I think many people. Cows. Cows are funny creatures. They're really cute. I love them. Cows will build. And if there were no fences, right, if there was nothing to keep them in, and a storm were to come in, the cows in the field, they would see the storm and they would, here's the storm coming in this way. The cows would try to go the same way to run away from the storm. Do you guys see what's happening? So here's the cow running away, but here's the cow is actually prolonging the amount of time it is in the damn storm by trying to run away from it. That is spiritual bypassing. That is you thinking that you can actually outrun that thing that is happening. But if you could stop being like a cow and you could be like a bison instead, you would have a total shift right away. So bison, if there were not fences and they were free to do their thing, what a bison, what an American buffalo will do. Here's the storm. Here's the bison. The bison is, there's some clouds coming in. Let me run to the storm. Let me run through the storm, head on. And you notice this? Like, here he comes running. Here goes the clouds. Guess who gets on the other side of the storm faster? Because they're willing to face it head on. They're willing to actually dive into that deep end. Okay? Now, there's another thing, though, that can happen. Maybe you dive in too much all the time. Maybe you feel like you have to be so all in your shit, whatever shit's coming up, that you actually end up swimming in it. You actually end up chilling out, bubbling in a hot tub of your own crap. That really starts to stink pretty quick, doesn't it? So how do you know that you're swimming in your own shit? Let me get a drink of water. You know, life with a toddler is really funny. She's 3.5. Is that still toddler? Life with a preschool age kid is really funny. Because she'll fall down and she'll hurt herself. And sometimes she milks it. Right? Sometimes the little scrape is really... girl, I have seen you fall off of stuff and face plant, and I've been like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. Are you okay? And you're fine. And now you're crying over this little scratch. And by the way, you stopped crying. But now that I walked up, or now that your dad walked up, now you're going to really wail in it and swim in it some more. I'm so hurt. If you're doing that, because, we all have a 3-year-old that sometimes appears within ourselves. Sometimes that's who comes out to front. If you're doing that, you're swimming in your own shit. Okay, so there's a really fine line. There's a really fine line between, no, I don't, I'm not going to look at that, and, oh, I have to dive in. I think a lot of people get really hung up. They get really stuck in this never-ending healing loop. Right? If you go on the normal route to recovery, it's all go look inside yourself, go heal, go resolve. Well, if you're not getting what you want in your life, then there's something wrong with you. Well, no, at some point, the only thing that's wrong with you is the belief that there's still something wrong with you. At some point, you actually are healed. That cut, that wound that you got actually heals itself, and it would remain healed if you would stop picking at it. If you would stop picking it back open, it would no longer be a thing. Stop doing that to yourself. Stop doing that to yourself because you don't need to. All right, so how do you know? How do you know where that line is? Radical personal accountability and radical self-honesty. Radical. There are some times that emotions are being released from my body and from my being, and they actually must come through me. And it is not pretty, and I'll do the whole ugly cry thing, and my eyes will get all puffy, and sometimes I need to wail. I have been releasing so much grief and so much rage from within my being. There is a time and a place where the most cathartic, healing, peaceful, life-giving thing that you can do for yourself is to lean into that. Now, I would be swimming in my own shit if I allowed that to continue for day after day after day after day. I would be swimming in my own shit if I kept bringing it back up intentionally. So recently I was visiting some family. I was visiting my dad, and some extended family was in town. And this person, this extended family, very much fits a stereotype with a name that begins with K. I won't say it. She happens to be named that. And I had such an interesting aha moment watching her continue to swim in her own shit. There was a thing that happened to her within their relationship. And when things happen in our lives, you don't necessarily like deserve them, nor did you create them. Don't go there. There's bad things that happen to people. It sucks. It's literally just part of life. You didn't like create it. You didn't deserve it. Okay. There's just bad shit that happens. There's some people that are bad or evil, but a lot of things that happen in our relationship dynamic, it takes two to tango, y'all. It takes two people. It takes both people in the relationship being an active participant, and we co-create the results that we get in our life. We co-create them. We're actually hardwired for connection. We can't do this thing alone. And so a lot of times, like, the things that we create are things that we had a role in creating. So this extended family member of mine went through this thing with her partner a number of years ago. Y'all ever gone through a thing with your partner a number of years ago? Yeah, I did that. We've done that. Patrick and I have done that. Now, if we continue, we've already worked through the thing. You already got the help. You already made a decision to continue to work on the relationship. You decided to continue the relationship. At some point, you must actually give yourself and the other person that grace in that space to set something new. And yet here we are, hanging out in my dad's kitchen, and here she is, talking about the same damn thing that she was complaining about in my grandpa's kitchen 7-8 years ago. Okay? That is swimming in your own shit. If something is so bad that you feel the need to talk about it for 6, 7, 8 years on end, you are literally doing it to yourself. You are literally perpetuating the pattern yourself. You cannot be upset with anybody else in your life. If it is really that bad, get off your ass and change it. There is not a damn person in your circle or in your reality that wants to hear you continue to bitch about something that you're not willing to do anything about, including yourself. And the more that you know that you have a truth that you need to act on, that you need to step into, the more that you're like, nope, I'm just going to bitch about it instead. I'm going to play the victim instead. The more that you do that, the more that you erode the trust that you have with yourself. The more you know, I don't actually have my own back. And you want to know why you're not getting what you want in your life? Because you don't have your own back and you don't trust yourself. How could you possibly create what you would like to have when you are intentionally still swimming in your old shit? There are some things in your life right now that are so ready to be done, dead, over, whatever. They've been like buried in the yard. They've got a tombstone on them. They have for a while. But you want to get out there with your little shovel and dig that back up so you can start the zombie apocalypse in your own life. Why? You've got to let that go. Stop swimming in your own shit. If you are choosing to continue to swim in your shit, the only thing that you can expect is more shit. What you focus on expands. Okay, so you don't want to be focused on everything that's needing to be cleared out. You also don't want to be avoiding it. Can you find the space in between? Can you stop being so black and white, so one extreme or the other? Have y'all noticed it's always the extremes that get us into trouble? Right? Gosh, like, go on a diet. You restrict what you're going to allow yourself to eat. You say, I cannot have any of that right now. What's the only thing that you crave? The thing that you're like not letting yourself have? Okay, so like you have to find a balance. You can't just live on this extreme. Can you find a place where I'm going to be willing to feel whatever comes up? I'm willing to look at if I feel triggered. If something happens within me that I feel triggered. My nervous system is triggered. It causes a physiological reaction in my body. I'm now feeling something. Whoa. Are you willing to actually take the flashlight and go shine it and look at that thing that is popping up? And be honest with yourself. No, some of the things I've had to be honest with myself about were not pleasant. I don't like admitting or looking at where I too have been abusive, and I have. But if I don't, and I expect my relationship to shift without owning who I have been and how I have contributed to it, through my bypassing, I will end up swimming in more of my own shit. Okay? So these two things, it's two bits of the same cycle, two halves of the same loop, and they end up perpetuating one another. You know, you get too far into the shit. I don't want to be here. I'm gonna pretend I'm not here. No, you just actually are, and it's okay that you are. But you don't have to remain there. It's totally acceptable to have a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, a hard year. But don't make that into a whole life. Okay, and then get real honest with yourself. Like, did you really have a bad day? Or did you have a bad 5 freaking minutes that you milked all day? Are you actually choosing to stay in your stuff because that's the identity that you know yourself as? You know yourself as a victim. Are you afraid of stepping out of that because, God forbid, you might not know who you are outside of that old role that you've been playing? I promise you, there's something bigger beyond. Okay? All right. I'm going to bring it full circle before we go because I think this is really important. If you are condoning, you are allowing, you are accepting, you are tolerating the intolerable, you are actually creating more of that in your world. Okay, we need to be primarily focused. The windshield is big for a reason. We need to be primarily focused on that which we would love to create, to be forward moving, to be forward thinking, to be looking ahead. But you also have a rear view mirror in your vehicle for a reason, and it's to look back. It's to look at the things in your life. It's to be honest, because things can sneak up from behind you and cause just as big of an issue as things that pop up in front of you. All right, if you've ever had an experience of someone following you too closely and you've had to hit the brakes, you know what I mean. All right, we cannot be condoning things that are not acceptable to our soul. Love and lighting and spiritual bypassing and pretending it's going to go away if we don't do anything does not actually resolve anything. And there are so many things happening on the planet right now. I don't even need to get specific. You know what I'm talking about. We're not even going to go there. We're going to keep this video up. There are things happening on the planet right now that you know in your being are not acceptable things. They are not things that we should have to roll over. They are not true. They are not real. Just because they are being stuffed down our throats as if they are doesn't mean we have to keep it. But if we do not have a sufficient bitch switch to stand up against that thing, it'll only get worse. You don't get your freedoms back by being compliant. If you've ever been in an abusive relationship, you know that the abuse just gets worse. Why? Because you have set the precedent that you tolerate it and you allow it. That's bypassing at its finest. You know, there's such a thing called the bystander effect. There's so much research and you can see it happen in real life. Someone's being bullied, someone's being hurt. There's a fire, there's something bad happening. Everybody assumes that somebody else is going to do something about it. Everybody else thinks, oh, someone else will call 911. I don't need to. It's already handled. How many things in your life are you actually expecting somebody else to handle for you that you could very well handle for yourself? All right? You cannot be upset about what happens to you if you are participating in it. And at some point, every single victim goes from being a victim to being a participant. Are you still participating? Are you ready to step out of that? Bye, y'all.